The TSA line has always been stressful, but in 2025 and moving into 2026, it feels different in a way most travelers don't notice until it's too late. The technology has changed, the rules have shifted, and yet people still walk in relying on habits that no longer fit the system. That mismatch is exactly why so many travel days fall apart right at the checkpoint. We've seen it happen again and again. Someone steps forward, calmly, expecting routine, and suddenly everything stops for them. A small misunderstanding becomes a problem, and the line that was moving smoothly turns into a moment of confusion and frustration. These situations aren't random. They happen because travelers don't realize the TSA environment has evolved while their approach hasn't. That is why understanding the updated mistakes is essential. If you avoid them, you move through security with a calm confidence most people around you don't have. Mistake 1. The real ID rule that ends trips instantly. All across the United States, travelers walk up to the TSA podium expecting a quick ID check, only to be stopped by the last thing they ever expected to hear. This ID isn't valid for travel. The surprise is immediate because many people still don't realize that real ID enforcement is fully in effect. Since May 7, 2025, TSA requires every domestic traveler to show either a real ID compliant license or a valid passport. That small star on your license is now the dividing line between moving forward and being turned away. What makes this mistake so devastating is how quietly the change arrived. DMVs are overwhelmed, information has been inconsistent, and travelers often discover the rule only when they're already at the checkpoint with no time to fix anything. Airports across the country have seen a surge in people denied entry simply because they assumed their old license was still acceptable. It isn't, and TSA isn't offering exceptions or second chances. Mistake 2. The shoe rule shift that catches travelers off guard. For years, taking off your shoes at TSA was automatic. No thinking, no hesitation, just slip them off and keep the line moving. But in 2025 and heading into 2026, that simple rule has split into something far less predictable. Some lanes now use upgraded CT scanners that let you keep your shoes on, while other lanes, only a few steps away, still require you to remove them. And because there's no universal pattern, travelers walk into the checkpoint unsure of what to do. This uncertainty creates one of the most common slowdowns in the entire line. A traveler steps forward confidently, then suddenly notices others walking through with their shoes on. They freeze, unsure whether to copy them or stick to the old habit. That hesitation spreads instantly. People behind them stop. TSA officers wave, gesture, or redirect. A routine moment becomes an awkward shuffle that throws off the rhythm of the line. The problem isn't the rule. It's assuming the rule never changed. Airports now operate with mixed technology, and the only way to move smoothly is to observe the lane before you reach it. Travelers who understand this shift move naturally and calmly. Those who rely on old habits end up creating delays for themselves and everyone around them. Mistake 3. Misreading the liquid rules in the age of CT scanners. For almost 2 decades, the liquid rule was simple. Every traveler knew the 3.4 ounce limit and the clear plastic bag routine. But 2025 has quietly rewritten that expectation. With new CT scanners installed in more airports each month, many lanes no longer require you to remove liquids at all. Meanwhile, older lanes, or smaller airports, still follow the traditional rule. This creates a confusing split where travelers rely on outdated instructions, or worse, overcompensate in the wrong lane. The most common scene looks the same every time. A traveler panics at the last moment, unzips their entire bag, and starts digging for toiletries that never needed to come out. Bottles spill onto the belt, bags flop open, other passengers wait while TSA officers try to move the confusion aside. And right next to them, travelers in the CT lane glide through without touching a single item. The frustration builds not because the rules are hard, but because the traveler didn't know which version applied. What many people don't realize is that both rules now exist side by side. The lane determines the expectation, not the airport as a whole. Travelers who pause briefly to observe the signage or the people ahead of them move seamlessly. Those who repeat the old 311 ritual automatically often waste time, slow the line, and draw unnecessary attention when none of it was required. Understanding this shift turns a chaotic moment into a calm one. It's no longer about memorizing the old rule. It's about recognizing which system you're stepping into. Mistake 4: choosing the wrong lane and losing precious time. One of the quickest ways to turn a smooth security line into a draining wait is by stepping into the wrong lane. In 2025 and 2026, TSA checkpoints are no longer one size fits all. Some lanes run on upgraded CT scanners, others rely on older machines, and some are designated for travelers using biometrics or TSA PreCheck. The lanes may sit only a few feet apart, yet the speed difference between them can be dramatic. This mistake begins the moment a traveler joins a line without paying attention to who is already in it. A lane filled with families juggling strollers and multiple bags will move much slower than a lane lined with frequent flyers who know the process inside and out. Travelers often realize this too late. By the time they're committed, the lane they chose starts backing up while the lane beside them flows forward without interruption. The frustration builds as they watch others move past, knowing they could have avoided the delay simply by taking 5 extra seconds to look around. The flow of a TSA line is shaped by the people in it. Business travelers with light bags move quickly. Groups or families take longer because they have more items, more questions, and more steps to complete. Observing this before stepping into a lane can save valuable minutes and prevent unnecessary stress. Choosing the right lane is less about luck and more about awareness. Mistake 5: forgetting that electronics are still a major trigger. Even with new scanners rolling out across the country, electronics remain one of the most common reasons travelers get slowed down at TSA. Laptops, tablets, drones, camera gear, and large battery packs all have shapes and density levels that catch the system's attention. In lanes that don't use CT scanners, these items must still come out of the bag. But many travelers, assuming every lane works the same, leave them packed away and walk forward without realizing they've just created a problem for themselves. The moment this mistake unfolds is always the same. The bag enters the X-ray machine, pauses, then gets pulled to the side while the traveler watches other people continue through. A TSA officer begins opening compartments, shifting items, and searching for the source of the alert. The traveler, now anxious and embarrassed, stands off to the side, trying to explain what they packed, while the officer works through it piece by piece. What could have taken seconds turns into minutes, and the delay affects not only them, but everyone behind them. What most travelers don't realize is that electronics are treated differently depending on the lane. CT lanes allow devices to stay in the bag. Traditional lanes still require everything to be separated. And because both systems operate side by side, passengers who assume one rule applies everywhere often set themselves up for unnecessary checks. Understanding your lane before approaching the belt is the simplest way to avoid a slowdown and keep your travel day moving without interruption. Mistake 6: overlooking the growth of TSA PreCheck and its new challenges. For years, TSA PreCheck was the secret weapon of frequent travelers. Shorter lines, fewer steps, shoes on, laptops in the bag. But in 2025 and moving into 2026, the program has exploded in popularity. More Americans than ever are enrolled, which means PreCheck lanes are no longer the quiet, quick shortcuts they used to be. Travelers who expect the old experience often walk into a line that suddenly feels much longer and slower than they imagined. The issue isn't that PreCheck has lost its value. It still moves faster than standard screening. But the growing number of travelers using it has changed the rhythm of the lane. People new to the program sometimes hesitate because they aren't familiar with the relaxed rules. Others mix PreCheck habits with standard lane behaviors and slow things down unnecessarily. And in airports transitioning between old and new equipment, the process can feel slightly different from one checkpoint to the next. The mistake many travelers make is assuming PreCheck will always feel the same. They walk in expecting the effortless flow they remember from years past, only to find a crowd of people who joined recently and still aren't sure what to do. Understanding that the program is evolving helps you stay patient, prepared, and realistic. PreCheck is still a major advantage, but it's no longer an automatic guarantee of a lightning-fast experience. Mistake 7. Carrying high-risk items that trigger secondary screening. Among all the slowdowns that happen at TSA, few are as common or as frustrating as having your bag pulled aside because of a single overlooked item. Power banks, drone batteries, camera equipment, vapes, and dense electronics often trigger the scanner, especially in lanes that still use older X-ray machines. Travelers pack these items without a second thought, unaware that they're some of the most frequently flagged objects in the entire checkpoint. The moment it happens is easy to recognize. The bag enters the machine, hesitates, and then slides to the inspection area while the traveler watches helplessly. A TSA officer begins unzipping compartments, lifting layers of clothing, shifting devices around, and searching for the item that caused the alert. Meanwhile, the traveler stands off to the side, anxious and impatient, wondering how something so small managed to derail their progress. It isn't the item itself that creates the delay. It's the surprise of not realizing how sensitive the machines still are. In modern CT lanes, these items often stay inside the bag without issue, but in traditional lanes, they're red flags by design. The mistake comes from assuming that all lanes operate with the same level of technology. They don't. And failing to understand that difference is one of the quickest ways to end up waiting while your entire bag is unpacked and inspected, one piece at a time. Mistake 8. Trusting digital IDs without preparing for failure. Digital IDs are becoming more common across the United States, and in many airports, travelers now breeze through TSA using their phone instead of a physical license. It feels modern, simple, and convenient until the moment it doesn't. What most people don't realize is that a digital ID can fail for reasons that have nothing to do with TSA. A dead battery, an expired app session, poor Wi-Fi, a screen that won't brighten, or even a minor software glitch can instantly make your ID unreadable at the exact moment you need it most. The breakdown always looks the same. A traveler steps forward confidently, phone in hand, fully expecting a smooth scan. But the screen doesn't load. The QR won't appear. The app logs out. The brightness is too low for the scanner. Suddenly, the line behind them is waiting while they frantically swipe, restart, and hope the phone cooperates. TSA officers stay patient, but the delay grows, and the traveler's calm quickly disappears. The danger here isn't that digital IDs don't work. They work extremely well when everything goes right. The mistake is relying on them without a backup plan. A physical real ID or passport can save an entire trip when your phone fails for reasons completely outside your control. Travelers who understand this move through the checkpoint smoothly. Those who assume their phone will behave perfectly often learn the hard way how quickly the situation can fall apart. Mistake 9. Forgetting to prepare your boarding pass for the scan. This mistake is small, but it causes an outsized amount of trouble at TSA. Travelers walk toward the podium with their boarding pass tucked somewhere in their phone, buried in emails, inside an airline app that needs to reload, or hidden behind notifications that pop up at the worst possible moment. What should be a simple scan turns into an awkward pause while the traveler swipes, scrolls, and taps through their screen trying to find the right code. The delay isn't long, but it's long enough to break the flow of the line. It happens constantly. A traveler steps forward without the QR code ready and the entire process stalls. The officer waits, the people behind them shift uncomfortably, and the traveler, now flustered, taps even faster, hoping the app finally loads. This moment, small as it is, can set the tone for the rest of their checkpoint experience. Once that stress kicks in, the next steps tend to feel more chaotic, even if they're simple. The truth is, TSA doesn't need much from you at this stage. They just need your ID and a scannable boarding pass. Travelers who open the code ahead of time move forward with ease. Those who wait until they're already standing in front of the officer often waste precious seconds and create unnecessary tension in a place where calm matters. Mistake 10. Underestimating the rise of enhanced screening in 2026. The final mistake is the one travelers least expect, yet it's becoming more common every month. TSA has begun increasing the frequency of enhanced screening across major airports, and these checks are far more detailed than the routine pass through the scanner. Travelers who get selected are asked to pause, step aside, and undergo additional inspection of their bags, their electronics, and sometimes even their clothing. There's nothing wrong with being chosen, it's a standard part of airport security, but the problem lies in how unprepared most people are when it happens. The moment always begins with surprise. A bag is pulled from the belt, or an officer points the traveler to a secondary table. Even when the traveler has done everything right, the sudden shift in process can create tension. Their heart rate rises, their breathing tightens, and every movement feels more complicated simply because they didn't expect the pause. Officers take their time, carefully checking for specific items or shapes. Travelers who aren't mentally ready often respond with frustration or hurried movements, both of which make the process even slower. Enhanced screening isn't something you can avoid or predict. It can happen to anyone, at any time, for reasons you'll never know. The mistake is believing it only happens to people who did something wrong. In reality, it's a routine part of security that will only become more common as TSA modernizes and expands checkpoints in 2026. Those who accept this and stay calm move through the process smoothly. Those who panic or rush end up creating delays for themselves and everyone around them. Reaching the end of this list isn't just about avoiding the stakes. It's about understanding the new reality of TSA in 2025 and 2026. The security line is no longer a place where old habits work. It's a system that has evolved faster than most travelers realize, filled with new technology, new expectations, and new patterns that reward people who pay attention and punish those who rely on what used to be true. What separates a frustrated traveler from a smooth one is not luck, it's awareness. The person who walks into the checkpoint prepared, calm, and informed notices the details others miss. They know which lane to choose. They recognize whether the scanner is CT or traditional. They keep their ID ready. They stay flexible when something unexpected happens. And most importantly, they understand that TSA isn't working against them. It's a process designed to keep the entire system moving safely and efficiently. If you carry anything from this video into your next trip, let it be this. Confidence comes from preparation. When you know the mistakes to avoid, the TSA line stops feeling like a threat and becomes just another step in your travel day. You move forward with clarity, you avoid the delays, and you leave the confusion to the people who chose not to learn the new rules.